little girl, and she will always cry, shouting, Daddy, please stop! Daddy, it's paining me. Daddy, it's scary, scary. In a small town called Kato, there lived a little girl named Lua. She was just 7 years old and lived with her parents, Mr. Ari, and her mother, Asa. Lua was a very beautiful girl with a radiant smile. But unfortunately, she never got to smile. She was not happy in her own parents' home. It all began one day when Lua was in her room, and her father, Mr. Ari, walked in. He said to her, Lua, I want to show you what it means to be a woman, but you must not tell anybody. It is a secret. Make sure you don't tell anyone. Little Lua did not understand what her father meant, but she trusted him. Of course, he was her father, and she trusted whatever he said. Mr. Airy started having intimacy with his 7-year-old daughter. He forced himself on the little girl, and she would always cry, shouting, Daddy, please stop! Daddy, it's paining me! Daddy, it's scary! But Mr. Airy would not listen. Lua didn't understand what was happening. She only felt a sharp pain down below that scared her, and it hurt. She ran away most times, but Mr. Airy would always catch her. At 7 years old, Lua was traumatized. You must be wondering, where was Mrs. Asa, her mother? Well, this was going on. Stick with me in this story. Mrs. Asa owned a very big shop in the city. She had the biggest fabric shop in the city, where everyone came to buy at wholesale prices. She was always in her shop, so into her business that she never cared to know what was happening in her home. Mr. Airy, on the other hand, was a man who worked from home, creating websites for companies. He had all the time to commit the atrocities he was committing because he was always alone with his daughter Lua. One day, Mrs. Asa was sitting at the dining table, calculating and counting money as usual. That was all she cared about. Then Lua walked up to her and said, Mommy, why does Daddy hurt me when you are not around? Lua's voice was small and trembling, but her mother, Asa, didn't even look up from the pile of papers spread across the dining table. Asa was a very business-oriented woman, always focused on her shop and money. Nothing else mattered to her. She responded to Lua's question, Lua, please, not now. Flipping through her ledger, her attention was fixed on the numbers. Can't you see that I'm busy? You know how hard I work to make sure we have enough. Just go and do your homework. But Mom, Lua said again, her voice cracking as she stood there, clutching the hem of her shirt, desperate for someone to listen to her. Lua, I said I am busy, Asa snapped, finally looking up, her eyes flashing with impatience. You always bring up silly things when I'm trying to work. Go to your room. Lua swallowed hard, her words dying in her throat. She wanted to scream, to beg her mother to hear her, but she knew it was pointless. Her mother never listened, never seemed to care about anything but the shop. So Lua turned quietly and went to her room, her heart heavy with a secret she was forced to carry alone. Mr. Ari continued to sneak into Lua's room every night. Whenever Madame Asa went to the shop, he always had his way with his daughter. He would always tell Lua to keep it a secret, that he was only trying to make her feel like a woman. And Lua would always say, Daddy, but it is always painful. I don't like it. I'm going to tell Mommy. And the father would always shout at Lua, If you tell anybody, you will die. Do you want to die? And out of fear, innocent Lua would say, No, and she would keep it to herself. But deep down, she needed someone to talk to. She needed attention. She needed someone to express her pains and feelings to. Oh dear Lua. She wanted to talk to her mother, but her mother never gave her a listening ear. It was as if she was all alone in the world. Her father, who was supposed to be protecting her, was hurting her. And her mother, who was supposed to be her guardian angel, was never available for her. One evening, Lua was sitting at the staircase, crying, her eyes swollen. She had gone to her mother again, hoping, praying that this time Asa would listen. But it had ended like all the other times. "Mom, can I talk to you? It's about Daddy," Lua had whispered, her hands trembling as she gripped the edge of the table where Asa was counting her money. Asa didn't even look up. "What is it now, Lua? You are always complaining about something." Lua's heart pounded in her chest. "It's about what Daddy does when you are not home. He... She couldn't bring herself to say it. The words felt like they would burn her throat. "Lua, I don't have time for this," Asa said sharply, slamming the pile of cash down on the table. "You are always making up stories. Daddy works hard to take care of us, and you're just trying to cause trouble. You little brat." "But Mom, please." Lua's voice broke, tears streaming down her face as she begged her mother to listen. "I said enough," Asa yelled, her patience snapping. "If you're not happy here, maybe you should go live somewhere else. Stop being so dramatic. You're just trying to get attention." Lua was stunned into silence. She felt the walls of her world closing in on her. No matter how hard she tried, her mother always shut her down. No matter how much she cried, Asa never believed her. The one person who was supposed to protect her couldn't even see her pain. The next morning, Lua sat at the breakfast table, her eyes dull and lifeless. Asa was already dressed for the day, her bag packed with order slips and money. "Make sure you behave today, Lua," Asa said, kissing the top of her head absently, not even noticing the tears brimming in her daughter's eyes. "I have to meet an important client." As soon as Asa left the house, Mr. Airy's mood changed. He smiled at Lua in a way that made her skin crawl. The man was a monster hiding in plain sight. Weeks went by, and the same pattern continued. Lua tried to tell her mother again and again, but Asa was too consumed by her business. She always dismissed Lua's cries for help, calling her dramatic or too sensitive. Until one day, Asa returned home early from work, something she never did, and found Mr. Aries in Lua's room. She caught him in the act. Asa's world crumbled in an instant. She screamed, pushing Mr. Airy away and clutching Lua in her arms. For the first time, she realized what her daughter had been trying to tell her all along. Asa called the authorities, and Mr. Airy was taken away. His defense: "Asa was never available for me. She was always busy with her business, and I needed companionship." Can you imagine? Is that an excuse? Lua was taken for counseling, where she slowly began to heal. Asa, wrecked with guilt, quit her job and dedicated herself to rebuilding her relationship with her daughter. The moral of the story? Always listen to your children. Ignoring their cries for help can lead to unimaginable suffering. If you were moved by this story, you'll love another chilling African folktale. Why man laughed on funeral? Click on the video now and uncover the mystery before it's too late. Thank you for listening to this story. Please subscribe and turn on notifications for more impactful stories. See you in the next video. Bye bye!